Today we're going to speak about the grid worker. This is archetype 44. It is in transit from October 31st to November 5th. This is a gate of alertness. In the I Ching, it is called coming to meet. And the Jinki frequency band goes from the shadow of interference to the city of synarchy, and the human pathway is teamwork. In the body graph, the 44 lives in the splenic center. This is an awareness center. There are three different awareness centers in the body graph: the splenic center, the ajna center, and the emotional center. As we're shifting and going towards the sixth line reality in 2027, we're going to need all our awareness centers online. And right now, we have a mutation happening in the emotional center. So there is an emotional sensitivity that's going to allow us to have more awareness, to understand better how to move through the world. So we need intuition, instinct. We need the left brain to be able to categorize, to be able to make sense of things, and also that emotional sensitivity of the things that are right for us. So this trinity of awareness centers would need to work together for us to be able to function and make decisions and move through the world in that sixth line reality. The splenic center also has to do with our immune system. And in the low frequency, the splenic center is about alarm. In the gift frequency is intuition, and the highest frequency is presence. The other gates that also live in the splenic center are the perceiver, the daredevil, the guardian, the maestro, the intuitive, and the librarian. When we look at the whole channel, we can see that the harmonic gate to the 44 is the 26. Some of the keynotes for the 26 are tension, battle, and higher values. We call it the hypnotist or the egoist. And when you have this whole channel, you have the channel of surrender. It's a design of the transmitter. If you have this, your gift is for working with people. You have an instinct for knowing how to present anything to anyone. Your lesson is to wait until the market finds you rather than you trying to sell yourself for recognition. When we look at the whole entire frequency band, we have a combination of what we just said: tension, battle, higher values, together with allies, recognition, and coherence. So in the low frequency, for the whole channel, we have manipulation, which you could also say is a combination of interference and pride. Then the gift frequency is transmission, which is teamwork and artfulness. And then the highest frequency of alchemy is when we have synarchy and invisibility together. Then we are looking even further out. And then you can see that this channel that we just looked at is part of the tribal circuitry. And here we have the keynote of support. The tribal circuitry has two circuits inside of it. And this one that we're looking at is the ego circuit. The whole tribal circuitry would also have the sacral smile that we have between the awareness centers and the sacral center. And here, when we speak about support, is the tribe, the family, people that have a lot of this circuitry. They like to be able to sit around the same table, sleep in the same bed, handshake, hug, these things that make us feel that we're close to people, that they are our people. That's really what the tribal circuit is about. There are also principles that we need to follow if we're a part of a tribe. So if you don't have a lot of tribal circuitry, you might feel that you don't like that way of having to follow principles, of having to have your role in the family, in the tribe, in the little group. That could be if you have a lot of individual circuitry or a lot of collective circuitry. And then now we're moving on to astrology. So we're looking at this archetype from astrology, and then we can see that it is in Scorpio. And Scorpio is the sorceress, the shaman, and the alchemist. In Scorpio, we find service to self-growth through the authentic expression of the awakened heart. When we look at the wheel, we can see the wheel starts in Aries. We're all the way through to the 8th sign, which is Scorpio. That's also connected to the 8th house. In modern astrology, the ruler is Pluto. That's the modern ruler. The traditional ruler is Mars. Here, it also has to do with transformation, with death and rebirth. It can have to do with debt or other people's money. We are in fixed water. This is the second time. So first time in Cancer, we have cardinal water. And second time in the wheel, we have fixed water, the deep water of Scorpio. And then we could also say the Scorpio is the depth of the ocean, the waters of emotional authenticity, and the rebirth of magic. When we look at the frequency band for this sign, we're going to see the low frequency is deception, the gift frequency is authenticity, and the highest frequency is alchemy. So the same as we could see as well for that channel of the transmitter. And then looking at the wheel, we have programming partners. We could also call these polarity points or opposites on the wheel. So if we have 44 on one side of the wheel in Scorpio, on this other side, we're going to have the 24 in Taurus. If you have the 44 in your incarnation cross activation sequence, then you're also going to have the 24. And the same, if you have 44 in one of your nodes, you're also going to have the 24. We can see as well when it comes to the hexagram structure that they are mirror opposites. So wherever the 44 has a yin line, you're going to see a yang line in the 24 and vice versa. And then with the keywords, we can see that interference and addiction go hand in hand, teamwork and invention go hand in hand, synergy and silence go hand in hand. And then looking at the quarters, we are at the very end of the quarter of duality. The quarters are always starting with a Sphinx gate, which is one of the 4 gates that are all in the G center. So the 44 is the very last one in this part of the wheel, in this quarter. The purpose is fulfilled through relationships. So all these signs here are quite social signs when we're looking at what they are about. And here in the middle of Scorpio, we're changing into the quarter of mutation next week. We can also look at the Godheads. So the Godheads are connected to the codon rings and the star codons. And in this part of the wheel, we have Thoth, Harmonia, Christ, and Minerva. And then going back to the gene keys, the 44 has to do with karmic relationships. And I sometimes like to call it the karmic cleaner. And that is something that I got from Adela when she was working with us. So looking at the shadow, we know that it's interference, but we can also look at the repressive and the reactive type of the shadow. So in the repressive, we have distrustful, and the 44 can smell the things that are right or the things that are off. So it's connected to that instinct of the splenic center, and it's connected to smell. So distrustful is that you can smell that it's something that's not right. And then the reactive, it's too fast to judge. So it's misjudging. It can get a cue of something and judge on that instead of really being anchored and grounded and be able to truly use that splenic center for the right intuition of how things are. And the dilemma here is hierarchy. So in the tribe, of course, the 44 can understand the different people. It has that recognition of where the people in the group or the tribe best can serve. So the dilemma here is hierarchy, because naturally there could be a kind of hierarchy. And at the same time, what the 44 brings in is a synarchy, that everybody is in the right place. And it doesn't matter really if it's a hierarchy, if it's a heterarchy. It's more like, again, everybody's in the right place. And then the victim state is isolation. So if you're distrustful, if you judge, if you have a lot of experiences where teamwork broke apart, then you could get into isolation. And then there can't be this connection with others where we clean the karma, where we heal the karma, where we integrate the karma. So then the 44 cannot actually do its work in the world. And we call the archetype the grid worker. So it's here to work with others, not to isolate. Here we're looking at the I Ching. If we are dividing the wheel into 12 zodiac signs in astrology, we're dividing it into 8 elements in the I Ching. And in this part of the wheel where we have the 44, that's where we have wind on the bottom. And wind is symbolized by this trigram here on the side. And the other archetypes that have wind on the bottom are the central, the perceiver, the librarian, the intuitive, the guardian, the maestro, the daredevil, and the grid worker, which is the one that we're looking at today. And in this specific case, we are going to have creative heaven over gentle wind. And here in the I Ching, we can say that the 44 is about disseminating the pollen of divine wisdom throughout the world. We can also look at those 2 elements as being connected to gene key. So when we have wind over wind, that is the same as hexagram or gene key 57. When we have heaven over heaven, that is the same as gene key or hexagram 1. So that means that the 44 is a combination of those 2 energies. and that the shadow interference is the entropy of unease. The gift of teamwork is fresh intuition, and the city of synergy is the beauty of clarity. And in my case, I feel this extra strongly because I have all these three gene keys in very prominent places in my chart. The 44 in the gene keys is my culture, the 1 is my evolution, and then the 57 is my vocation. So they are all working inside of me. And we can also say, because we have this connection between the 1 and the 57 making up the 44, that this hexagram is about creating intention. And then the last place we're going to go to is a back to 3D. And here we're looking at the hexagram in terms of a color coding, but also we have a verb instead of a noun describing the hexagram. So we have discernment for this specific one, and we can see that we have the wind on the bottom, which is this person that we see here, and then the background heaven is the white that we see here. Then you have a little symbol that you could use if you want to activate this energy in you. And here we go a little deeper. So we said that it has to do with discernment. And then when we have the I Ching, because it has to do with being able to predict things, we were using the coins, casting the coins, and we could predict things thanks to the I Ching. And one way of looking at the meaning is to look at the inner hidden trigram. So if we don't look at the top and we don't look at the bottom, we're going to have two trigrams in the middle, and they are both heaven in this case. So the hidden trigrams are heaven twice, and the color coding is so that when we have heaven, that is connected to Leo, and Leo is connected to the sun. Sun is the ruler of Leo, and it's also connected to the fifth house because Leo is the fifth sign. So here we have that energy that's hidden inside. And then just looking at those two trigrams, wind would be the same as Virgo, the ruler is Mercury, and it's also connected to the sixth house. So we have a combination of the fifth sign and the sixth sign, Leo and Virgo, and then in the middle, we have heaven twice. What we can see here is that it's about discerning to detect what's needed, and then the hidden trigram is about ordering our talents. I would actually say that this is a little bit more like a combination here in the recommendation of Virgo and Leo, because ordering is very Virgo, and then talents with the sun, how we shine, that is very Leo. So this is another way of looking at it that just gives us a different perspective to understand the specific hexagram. And that is what we have on the 44 today. Thank you.